Hi there, thanks for having me. I was just trying to figure out how to get rid of this. Can you guys see the share bar on my screen? I hope not. It's the bar with all the participant and video and everything.
No, I think you're
Okay,
good.
so it's just me. Okay, I just want to make sure it kind of is in the way of my words.
You should be able to move it.
Yeah, I'm moving it down to the bottom. Okay. All right, well, thank you everyone for having me. It's an honor to be here. My name's Melissa Lobel. And I am the manager at Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. I work for California Fish and Wildlife, and I have only been in my position for a year. So pretty new. I'm going to say it's been a wild ride. I've had tern nest abandonment, elegant tern rescue efforts on a barge and a boat. And then of course the oil spill. So my learning curve has been really high and significantly increasing throughout the year, but it's really an honor to be responsible for one of the last remaining coastal wetlands in California. This is my first time joining. I appreciate all that you guys are doing, and you do. I'm learning so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me at the end and share your thoughts or any suggestions you might have me help me be a better manager at Bolsa Chica. So that being said, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to give you a little brief history of Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve, and I think that's important because each site's different, and it's important as land managers that we acknowledge that, recognize that. Bolsa Chica is unique, which I'm going to talk about in a second, but it's in a highly urbanized area, one of the most populated beaches in Southern California. So I've learned quickly there's a lot of wildlife disturbances, and we're working really hard to manage those right now. It's a 1,500 acre reserve, one of the last remaining coastal wetlands in Southern California and the largest. We have over 60 species of marine fish, 100 acres of eelgrass or even more. That's important because that serves as habitat for fish nurseries. And those fish nurseries are critical for our migratory birds and nesting birds and so much more. Over 900 species of plants and animals. That's a big number for a space 1,500 acres. We are home to 23 special status and rare species. And of course, home to the western snowy plover, one of my favorite little birds. They are federally threatened. Obviously a highly vulnerable species because they're a ground nester. So any ground nester would be highly vulnerable to wildlife disturbance. Fortunately, the plovers at Bolsa Chica nest mostly on the backside or the restricted area. So they don't really interface with humans as they do on the beach side or the public side. They do face disturbances such as aerial predators, those fancy little paragliders that come off the cliff there, or even potentially drones. So I wanted to briefly show you guys this graph. We're in the process of updating it as I've been on the job a year, but this really shows the importance of Bolsa Chica for snowy plovers. You can see an increase in population over time. And so it's critical that we continue to monitor and manage and understand any threats that might affect these birds and their breeding in our local region. And of course, the California least tern, it's a state and federally endangered species. Terns are new for me. This year was amazing. So these two images on the left, I absolutely love. This was my first hatchling that I got to see up close when we were doing monitoring. It had hatched that morning, the little chick on the bottom by the vegetation. And the one up top, he's about a day old, fluffy. And we have a really sensitive nesting site for the California least terns that we spend a lot of time managing. And in fact, I'm going to talk about the drone incident, but these guys actually had a drone land in their nesting habitat. And I realized they're really tough. They'll give up a good fight to protect their young because when the drone crashed, they got up, they scurried, but they came right back. So that kind of showed me the difference in response for each bird species. This really tells us right here, the California least terns at Bolsa Chica, if you look over time. So the numbers continue to rise, and it was about, and unfortunately I can't see it because of the bar, but I'm going to move the bar. Here we go. So right about 2018, 2016, you see a significant drop. And this was correlated to aerial predators, which I'm going to talk about in a moment, which actually was relating to human disturbances that ultimately indirectly affected our breeding at Bolsa Chica Ecological Reserve. Oh, my screen's not moving. There we go. And of course, the endangered Belding Savannah sparrow, one of the only remaining coastal habitats remaining for the species. And we've got a large number of breeding pairs at Bolsa Chica. Home to the endangered green sea turtle. This was actually a turtle that caused a little mischief. He went down one of our culverts and he found a little pond full of all-you-can-eat buffet and was thriving, but he couldn't stay there because there was no way for him to get out. So we had Noah, we came, rescued him. And that was exciting because this was actually the first time the green sea turtle was observed in our full tidal basin. They've been observed in the bay, but never in the full tidal basin. And that was actually a restoration project that was finished in 2006. And then of course, the endangered ridgeway rail. I love these little chicks. This was from this year's nesting season. And it's an important place for migratory bird species. So these were all taken right outside my office window. Oh, actually, the plovers on the upper right were on our South Tern Island. But this reminds us how important these flyway areas or these places where these birds stop and they refuel and they rest, making sure that when they arrive that they're safe and they aren't harmed in any way or disturbed. Bolsa Chica is a MPA, so we have the Bolsa Bay State Marine Conservation Area and the Bolsa Chica Basin. And as I mentioned, that Bolsa Chica Basin is our newest restoration that was from 2006. Basically, it provides inflow of water from the ocean into that purple area. So these are all protected areas. There is a very small area, that little white square, where you can actually fish. Unfortunately, we do get fishermen that come in near the inlet, and it's clearly labeled on the bridge, don't enter, no fishing, but sometimes we do have to interface with them, and we hope to always educate them and often cite them if they don't cooperate. So no fishing, no pets, no dogs. It's supposed to require a land pass. We don't actually require a land pass, so that's something I'm looking into right now. That is actually a code that we are not familiar with at the moment, but I'm curious about that. And then of course, lots of sharks, guitarfish, stingray, anchovies, and many other species of fish. I'm really excited. We actually observed our first ever Garibaldi in our restored area. We've never documented them before, and we counted 7. I'm not going to tell anyone where they're located. It's in a hidden, undisclosed location, but I'm carefully watching over that little cove. This is the typical sign if you were to visit Bolsa Chica. Basically, no dogs, no bikes. Drones is being added to our new ones. We do have a no drone sign there, but it is not on our main sign. It clearly states, you know, stay on the trails, the rules, the regulations, and how to report violations. But again, because it's an ecological reserve, its purpose is really to provide habitat for sensitive species. Down at the bottom, if you go to our website, you'll see this recreational opportunities. That's basically what you see when you go to the website. Most recently, we added the no drone icon that was previously not on the website. So our biggest issues at Bolsa Chica are dogs off leash. It sounds like that's a big issue for everyone. That's probably our #1 issue right now. And then poaching, that's pretty common. You know, we're along PCH. It's easy to get in and out of the Bolsa Chica wetlands. Also bikes, you have a lot of bikers that travel down PCH. They stop into the wetlands. They want to check things out. Fishing, as I mentioned, motorized vehicles, those electric bikes, oh boy, when they zoom through the wetlands, it's not easy to catch them. So often that requires an interface at an entrance or exit of the reserve. And then unauthorized watercraft. Occasionally we'll get paddle boarders, but not too often. Sometimes kayaks. And then of course, drones. We actually have, even though it's illegal to fly drones at the Ecological Reserve, we can't actually control the airspace above the reserve, which is kind of hard to wrap your head around, but you can control the takeoff and landing. So that's when someone could be cited. So I could have someone on the state beach side lift a drone, fly over above the eco reserve, and actually technically be legal because we cannot control that airspace, which I will get to in a moment. So Bolsa Chica is unique. It's in an urban area, Wintersburg Channel. So you see that long stretch, that watershed, that really those green lines that stretch in, that's actually county property. So dogs are allowed on that stretch of the little channel there. But they're not allowed anywhere else in the reserve. So as you can imagine, that property line they merge. And so we get a lot of dogs off leash there. And that's something that we're hopefully gonna have enforcement there, and then signs, and then also our reserve watch program to interface with dog walkers about keeping their dogs on that trail, potentially even restricting certain areas for dogs at all, working with the county on that. Airplane density, airplane, we're in the fly zone. And then of course, those fancy little motorized gliders that I mentioned, and kites. So conflict, when you have different agency or property owners with different rules and regulations, that's really hard. So on the right side here, you see all these different parcels. So you've got state, city, county, private, Bolsa Chica Conservancy. So right now I'm working on bringing us all together, making sure we're all on the same page, moving forward. And I think that's really, really important, because one agency could work really hard to educate or define their rules and regulations, but another might not be. And that can be really, really difficult. So far, it's going really well. We have great collaboration in developing those relationships. Okay, so this brings me to the Elegant Tern disturbance. So if you've ever been to Bolsa Chica and you've heard the terns, they are loud. So we can get nesting pairs 10,000 to even 20,000 at Bolsa Chica Eco Reserve. These are images taken on our two most critical nesting sites, North and South Tern Island. I love this. This, again, like I mentioned, terns are new for me. So basically you have adults, they're colony nesters, synchronized hatchers. So they all nest, hatch at the same time on these islands. And then they corral those little young to keep them safe. Well, at Bolsa Chica this last year, we had roughly 1,500 eggs. We estimated 3,000 birds that nested on our North Tern Island, which was really exciting. About a month, in the month of May, I received a call from my staff saying that the eggs had been abandoned. Well, elegant terns can actually drop eggs if stressed, but they actually abandon these eggs. So you see they make these little scrapes where they lay the egg, and that was the difference. So that immediately perked my interest. That was a red flag. We immediately investigated it. We found a drone out on the site near the eggs. Within 24 hours, we actually had 2 drones crash, and we concluded at that time that the drone most likely caused the disturbance. This caught massive media attention. It went worldwide. I really had no idea when we did the press release where it would take us. And I'm going to say a lot of positive things are coming from this. You know, Washington Post, LA Times, New York Times, ABC, CBS, CNN, and so on and so on. But to this day, we're still getting requests for interviews and information. And I think we're using that as a platform to make positive change. So where did these birds go? They decided to land on a not so ideal nesting barge located in the port of Long Beach. These are rocks for the Naval Weapons Station jetty repair. And basically once the bird laid an egg, they could not remove the barge. So this is where they decided to lay their eggs. So we eventually got up to 10,000 terns nesting on 280-foot long barges. Well, what happened is right around July 4th, we received calls that there were birds washing ashore dying or drowning in Long Beach. So I gathered a team, got on an Oscar boat. We traveled out to the site and learned that these elegant terns had actually nested on these rafts. And we were trying to wrap our head. We're seeing chicks jumping off the barge, drowning right and left. We quickly realized that we had an emergency situation on our hands. So we needed to rally together and make some serious decisions. We did conclude these birds came from Bolsa Chica based on their arrival date and the time that the eggs actually hatched. This data was collected from eBird. So the incident required big collaboration between different groups. International Bird Rescue was really critical in these efforts. Julie and I basically gathered a team, reached out to all the aquariums and local marine sources. We needed boats, we needed bodies, we needed nets. This little cooler with the birds on it, this was actually one of the first rescue group to go out. He was a caring citizen with a boat. He couldn't help himself. He went out, he started scooping up birds, and eventually it was a little more organized. As I mentioned, we needed the support. So we have the California Science Center, Heal the Bay, Oil Wildlife Care Network. We have OSPR, myself, and then International Bird Rescue. Thousands and thousands of hours went into this rescue. We were out there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, cost a lot of money for all these different institutions and nonprofits to make this all happen. So again, this is the Oiled Wildlife Care Network. We have IBR, and then the cute little terns on the bottom there with that pink dot. This was our way of marking them. You can see in the upper right, Julie actually returning the chick back to the barge. This was our way of marking to tell us if the bird was put back on the barge. If they decided to jump ship again, which you think they learned the first time, but they didn't always, that we wouldn't double count the birds. So a lot of collaboration. The bird in the middle with all of the messy pink, that's a quick triage. So basically we banded the bird, we made sure they were healthy, we put them back on the barge. The reason we chose to do that, it's there for nesting, so much more beneficial for them to be with a parent than in a rehab center. Higher success rate for survival. So we realized thousands of birds were jumping ship. In total, we rescued almost 3,000 chicks. That's a lot of birds. We could not sustain that long term, so we had to find solutions. In a nutshell, we created these rafts. International Bird Rescue created these rafts. We attached them to the barge, and they worked. The birds basically would haul out onto these little rafts. We could either scoop them up, triage them, put them back onto the barge if they got overcrowded. But the idea was here to watch and monitor to make sure the adults will still feed them. But I want to ask you guys a question. So think out loud, or you can write in the chat. I don't even know if I can see the chat. I can. What do you guys think the #1 disturbance was during this rescue mission? So imagine us on boats going around these giant concrete barges with birds floating in the water. What do you think the #1 concern or disturbance was? I'll give you a hint. We were located next to the Queen Mary and the Carnival cruise ship. That's where these two barges were. So we were constantly faced with disturbances, which actually became a human hazard and a wildlife hazard. So I think I got some chats. Okay, so yep, wake was huge. I mean, you would get 2-foot wake, boaters, jet skiers. Everyone wanted to come out and check the terns because it made news. We would get jet skiers that would come over. They would do a quick UE and the water would go up onto the barge, knock the chicks off the barge. We'd have to go rescue the chicks. Reminding we're in little boats, so we're rocking. It became really, really stable. Definitely people, we had a lot of looky-loos. You name it, it was there. But it was effective. Oops. Let's see. There we go. This cost International Bird Rescue over $60,000 and thousands of hours. So we're thankful for all that they did. And they are currently obviously inundated with the oil spill as well. This is the barge after the fact. So all these little scrapes, it just gives you an idea of not ideal nesting site. I'm sorry, everything's delayed on my, there we go. I'm gonna move quick because I'm running out of time. These are all the groups that help participate in the rescue efforts. I wanna thank all of them. I would name them all, but again, I'm running out of time. So if you guys have questions at the end, I'd be happy to answer in regards to the rescue efforts. This is going to be my graduate project. These species are highly sensitive to unseen disturbances. So human and predators, they seem to be very vulnerable, and their response is to up and abandon, up and leave. That's what research has suggested. So we're considering installing or designing these floating rafts for future, which will be really, really helpful for conservation and migratory species. Bolsa Chica, we also deal with confiscation of or poaching, as I mentioned. So remember how I said the California least terns are critical nesting site for them. This is my #1 disturbance with the California least tern, feeding crows. We found a couple feeding crows, 30 crows, flock of crows following them everywhere they went. Guess where the crows would go after they forage? They'd come over and they'd eat all of our baby least terns. We had 0 fledglings in 2020, not a good thing for an endangered species. So we finally were able to communicate with this couple and convince them they were causing significant harm to our endangered species. So far, they have stopped feeding the crows. But I wanted to give you an idea of the good intent to feed wildlife never goes far. Airplanes crashing Upper Newport Back Bay, We had a fire in August, the homeless encampment that was caused by a homeless encampment. We had one of the largest homeless encampment that was cleaned up in March, and that required 4 different agencies to work together. Obviously, I was extremely interested in that. It was right at our property edge, but all of that pollution would enter into our wetlands. Illegal boat removals. This is from Upper Newport Back Bay as well. Also something that we deal with at Bolsa Chica. I just didn't have any images. Horses. I'm right by a horse center or equestrian center. And so horses are also not legal on the trails, but we do have horses that do travel throughout the wetlands. This is a boat that was stranded. So to get this boat out, it's going to require heavy equipment. And then, as I mentioned, dogs. That was the best I could do to blur out her face. Sorry about that. Dogs cause stress. We all know that. At Bolsa Chica, the trail for the legal dog trail sits right up next to our endangered ridgeway rail nesting. And we've actually seen them respond or abandon nest as a result. So that's really, really hard to watch. And I'm positive over time that we'll make some positive change there. Sorry, my slides are skipping around. I'm not sure why they're doing that. And then fishing, I already mentioned fishing. That's pretty heavy at our inlet. This is also another big issue for us. The urban area, we've got a lot of residents that feel entitled and want to go anywhere they can on the wetlands. This actually was taken last week. We get people that rip out our signs, cut our fences, climb over our sensitive areas. So I want to make positive change here. I want to invite them to come do a tour, teach them about how lucky they are to have the wetlands in their backyard. So that is also something we deal with. Photographers, I'm a photographer. They actually go off trail a lot and they want to get that best shot. So that's also something I'm working on with our birding community and our photography community, with all the local photographer groups and shops to help educate people about the importance of protecting sensitive habitat. So solutions that we're providing right now: improving our signage, a reserve watch program. I'm really, really excited about this. This is going to include docents that will be trained to interface with community when they visit the wetlands, talk about the rules and regulations, why they exist, monitor to make sure they're being followed, and reporting them when they're not. I'm really positive that this will help with our dog issue, our bike issue. And then, of course, the signs are important, that they can be easily read and interpreted well. Posts and rails, we're currently working on installing posts and rails. You used to be able to walk anywhere you wanted on the trails. Right now, these posts and rails really send a message: you have to stay on the trails. Providing an outdoor classroom, really a controlled environment. We want people to be able to access nature. We want them to learn. We don't want to restrict all of their access, but we can still provide them access while, we can still provide them access and while doing it safely. So as I mentioned, accessibility, being able to see what's in the water. Drones. So this is something that positives coming from the drone incident with the terns. We are working with the FAA and all the drone apps to actually restrict airspace above all 750 eco reserves. If we can accomplish that, that's a really big thing. We can expand beyond that. And basically what that does in a drone app, there is a no-fly zone when they go to look at the fly zone. Of course, you'll have drone users that aren't responsible and may not actually look at that app, but we're hoping, collaborating with these drone apps, that will really eliminate a lot of the conflict there. We're also adding more education, public education outreach and language to our websites. And that is it. Sorry, I moved so fast there. I was running out of time. Here is my email. You guys, please feel free to email me. Call me anytime if you have questions, thoughts, anything that you think might help me better manage the wildlife disturbance at Bolsa Chica. I would be incredibly grateful, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Melissa. You had a lot on your plate.
Yeah, it's really been a crazy year for sure, but it's all good. I'm really grateful to be in the position, and I think the collaboration with the different groups is really important.
And I think a few of our Respect Wildlife memes might be really appropriate for down in Bolsa Chica. So we'll make sure you get that social media packet.
Sounds great. I look forward to it.
Anything?
Your question. Jenna has a question. She wants to know if it's likely that terns will try to nest on the barge again next year.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things, sorry, I was running out of time, so I had to skip some stuff, but we are working with the barge companies to make sure there is no opportunity for them to nest. Now, nature's nature, they might choose to nest wherever they choose, but the idea is that all the barges are removed before the terns arrive. The flat barges where they would want to nest.
Thank you. Question from Paul. Can you talk some more about efforts to restrict airspace, specifically with regards to working with the FAA?
Yeah, so the FAA has been really helpful. They reached out to us right away when this happened, when the terns of, and I forgot to mention, actually, it was in my slide. Drones can actually be used as effective tools. So I'm not opposed to drones, and I want to really make that clear. Of course, the media portrays it not how you say it. So I want to say that it can be used. I think that it's less invasive. You can gather a lot of information, less harmful on wildlife if done responsibly and respectfully. This was just incidents with recreational use, no education, no license. But the FAA has been really helpful in helping us understand what we can do. How can we move forward? In fact, they're pushing me to go to the Washington Capitol because it's on their radar right now because of this incident. So I'm working in all my free time to try to put together a group to potentially do that. It's strange that you have no control over your actual airspace above you. That was really hard for me to wrap my head around. So the idea there is we can restrict that. FAA cannot technically restrict that airspace unless it's a human hazard, but we're in the midst of trying to convince them that they can, and they are receptive. So hopefully we'll get there. And then again, the drone language, restricting that on the drone app. So basically showing that it is illegal to fly a drone at an ecological reserve.
Thank you. We have a comment from Kala Allison. She says she's working with Orange Coast Marine Protected Area Collaborative on a new no dog sign designed to show the why of flushing birds in the icon. Should be an interesting project and hopefully helpful for Bolsa Chica as well.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I will say I've got a whole committee for the signs, and I'm finding that some people just don't read the signs, no matter how big, no matter how bold. I'm not saying I'm not supportive of signs. We need them. They're critical, because those people that do care and will take the time to read and hopefully encourage the neighbor next to them that's walking with them and tell them why it's important. And I love Kala's idea that explaining why, because why should I follow a rule if it doesn't affect me? But it actually does affect us and them and everybody. So thank you for sharing that.
There's also a lot of thanks for sharing your work. You're doing a superb job, superb presentation. And Arena says, and you didn't even mention the oil spill trauma.
No, oh my gosh. Bolsa Chica, we're very fortunate we did not get hit, but it was 4 days of crazy mad chaos, booms and Bolsa Chica, the inlet there, the water's really powerful. So our booms had to be really strong. And so a lot of collaboration with the city and state, but we're thankful that we didn't get directly impacted. I'm, feel for down south for sure.
Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. Have a good afternoon, everyone.